This week on Ellie MacGyver, how to change a car into a Faraday cage, and how to cut off an electronic tag and move its signal to your phone. This was another very decent episode of this show nobody's heard of, The Mosquito Coast, Episode 2, Foxes and Coyotes. Rupert Wyatt is back as director, and the episode is sort of split in half. The first part deals with the aftermath of the car crash. This is all happening at night, and the second half is all about trying to cross the border, which is happening in the daytime. The episode starts off with a butterfly. I thought that to be a little silly. The butterfly comes back at the very end of the episode, so it's a nice bookend. But I didn't really know what to do with it. It served no purpose. How can a butterfly serve a purpose? Well, you can let it interfere in some way. A character could be distracted by it or something, and then a tiny butterfly creates a big chain reaction. You could do something like that, but they didn't. So it feels a bit hollow. It feels a bit cliche. Next time you want to write a butterfly into a scene, just give Vince Gilligan a call. He'd know what to do with it. So Ellie and Dina are running from the cops, and they're briefly hiding in this underground no man's land. And even though they're being chased, they still find time to discuss homelessness and everything that's wrong about the system. It works well enough because they're watching the cops to see what they're going to do, where they're going to go. And now Ellie tells Dina that all these homeless people are in fact homeless because they committed a crime. The crime being that they stopped consuming. He says these people are broken consumers, which is kind of funny given the fact that this is an Apple streaming series. Apple, one of the biggest companies in the world, puts out content that contradicts their own business philosophy. Or does it? Because, yeah, the main character does address an uncomfortable truth, a truth that we don't really want to look at. It's the shadow of the system that we'd rather ignore. So it makes you wonder why Apple picked this particular story to turn it into a series. Well, I guess because you can look at it from a different perspective. Because what the show is basically telling you is, if you stop consuming, if you step out of the rat race, you will end up in this dark, dirty, and dangerous place. So the show tries to teach you to fear getting out of the rat race. Now that's not the truth, it's actually the other way around. If you get off the hamster wheel, if you stop consuming and stop buying into all the bullshit, you will actually live a much brighter and happier life. So, back to the show. We get to see a lot more of the two main police officers, and they're getting quite cartoonish. The writers want you to root for the main characters, the Fox family, so they don't want the cops to be too sympathetic. They are the bad guys in this story. But if you make them too bad, like they did, they become cartoon characters. They become one-dimensional. In this case, they're not just bad because they're after our heroes. They're bad because they're bad in every way, in every situation, in everything they do. They could not be more unlikable. Whether it's a father, a son, a suspect, a lead, a sheriff, doesn't matter. They are assholes to everybody. They're even assholes to each other. And that does bring down the show a little bit. So Ellie and Dina get out of no man's land, and Dina makes a call to a guy she likes, but the cops are already there, and the female cop tries to persuade her to give up her location, but it doesn't work. Dina's wavering a little bit, but then she comes with a huge speech and it comes out of nowhere. Now, it kind of makes sense. You know, she's been raised by Allie, who's been giving her speeches all her life, probably. But it doesn't ring true. And that's because of the scene right before this one. When Allie told her about the broken consumers, it looked like that was the first time Dina heard him say things like that. So she's not completely aware yet about her dad's philosophy and every argument and everything that goes into it. So coming up with this very precise, very clear worded, and quite long response to the cop on the phone, that's cutting corners. That is too easy from a writer's perspective. Now the family is reunited. They get a little money. They get the name of someone who can help them cross the border. And this someone is quite unwilling to do that. He does have an electronic tag he'd like to get rid of, though. And since Ellie is something of an electronic genius, they make a deal. In the meantime, Margot is dancing with the other guy at this place. And they're just dancing. Nothing happens. He seems all right. Maybe. It feels like the writers were thinking, what do we do with these other characters in the meantime? We need to fill the screenplay with something. That's what it feels like. But that's not to say this is not going anywhere, because I bet this guy is going to be a problem very, very soon. Dancing was just the beginning. Now the episode's got a lot of great guest stars, beginning with the two Mexican dudes, but also the sheriff that shows up, played by Gene Silvers. That is a real sheriff, okay? That's not an actor. That's somebody who's actually working as a sheriff. That's how good he is. Another great guest star is the militia leader, who could be Billy Bob Thornton's younger brother. The actor is Brett Rickaby, and he's just amazing. He doesn't have a lot of lines, but he was just amazing. Too bad we probably won't see him again. So, yeah, overall, a pretty decent episode.